Utilitarianism is the political philosophy that dictates that some goal be achieved in terms of society as a whole, be achieved without regard to the rights of the individual. So by whatever measure is agreed upon by the government in charge of what is the ideal state, ideal civilization, whether that measure be happiness or health or housing or food or a combination of all of those put together. But that is the only goal in utilitarianism, and the rights of the individual are not considered. And so that is what I believe is happening in the case of vaccine and mask mandates. Now, there's some nuance to this. I'm putting it in some simplistic terms. I'm maybe oversimplifying a little bit, but I just want to get the idea across about what the utilitarian philosophy is and how it relates to the vaccine mandate. Now, there is some nuance to this issue, whereby even in a free country, mostly free country, such as the United States, there are certain laws that are implemented that do go along with a certain utilitarian philosophy. One good example would be the case of drunken driving laws, driving while under the influence of alcohol. That can be considered a utilitarian law, since someone can be charged with drunken driving and face significant penalties, even if, say, they were pulled over for even if they weren't swerving or driving in a reckless manner, maybe they just had a tail light broken or something, and if they're pulled over and determined that they are under the influence, they can be charged with the offense of drunk driving while under the influence. Now, so you would say, well, what about the rights of the driver of the car, since there's no evidence that they did anything wrong? Well, I think there's been a consensus that's been reached by society in general that there still should be laws against driving while under the influence, even when the driver has shown no signs of actually driving in a reckless manner. But that's the important point, though, is that the consensus has been achieved amongst the society. So and the unwritten social contract has been agreed upon that still should be illegal. Now, we could go on about the justice of that or not. Myself, I think some of the drunk driving laws are too draconian, but I agree that there should be still some restrictions on the level of alcohol in a person's system. That should be some restrictions on that. I agree on that myself, and so I think generally, yes, society has already generally agreed on that as well. But what I'm arguing is that it's not been achieved in the case of the vaccine mandates. There has been no consensus achieved, but still, we have the Biden administration still pushing forward with this with the vaccine mandate. There's currently being the Fifth Circuit Court of our federal judicial system has suspended the mandate, and finally the Biden administration has agreed to okay, we're going to hold off until it's gone through the court system. But at least that is only on the terms of the employers over the large companies in general. But I believe there's still mandates in force in terms of healthcare providers, and that's somewhat that's very significant here. And what I'm arguing here is that in terms of the utilitarian, what I'm calling the utilitarian paradox, that happens with societies that implement utilitarian laws and dictates without regard to the consensus of society, society at large, and that has, and yeah, there's definitely no consensus been achieved with the utilitarian vaccine mandate and the utilitarian any mask mandates. Although there's no, I'm not aware of any federal mandates. Although we do have some state mandates in terms of masks on sort of like public transportation. I know for sure there's with that. School districts are on a case-by-case. Each school district is to decide here in Minnesota whether or not to require students to wear those masks. But the important thing is that when societies they try to implement these utilitarian laws, what I would define as without the consensus, non-consensus. Utilitarian dictates, laws, mandates by the government, then what you end up with is not a utopia that was the original goal, the original justification for implementing the utilitarian law in the first place. You end up having the opposite effect of a dystopia. Things go downhill instead of progressing. Instead of being progressive, you get regressive. A regressive society, and that's what you saw with the Marxist communist countries of the past and present. You saw it in the Soviet Union, the Soviet bloc countries. We're seeing it in the CCP, in China currently, and in North Korea. Whereby it's when you have no regard for the individual rights of the citizen, then that is not you end up with a much less than ideal state. You end up with a dystopian state, and that is exactly what is happening as a result of that the vaccine mandate. I was just watching on PBS today, our local PBS television station, and there was I believe it was a state senator. I'm assuming it was a Republican because he was actually sounding off against Biden's vaccine mandate, and specifically in regard to healthcare providers. It's kind of unusual because these public TV stations, they tend to have nonstop propaganda in support of vaccines. And the vaccine mandate, it seems like, so I was a little surprised to have somebody invited that actually is against it. But anyways, he was citing a statistic. It was just remarkable. I believe I heard it correctly that he stated that there's 2,000 nursing home workers exiting the field out of, I believe it's just in the state of Minnesota, because he said it was out of a total of 48,000 workers. So I think there's more than 48,000 nursing home workers in the whole country in the United States. So 2,000 a month are leaving, are exiting. And I think it's a safe assumption that many of them are leaving because of the vaccine mandate. So as a result, there's not going to be enough workers to care for the nursing home residents. And you're going to have a dystopian condition inside those nursing homes as a direct result of Biden's utilitarian vaccine mandate. So they're using as a justification for implementing the vaccine mandate because it's going to help society. But the paradoxical result is it hurts society. It hurts healthcare. So now all these healthcare workers are leaving, and there has this huge labor shortage with not enough workers to care for the residents of the nursing homes and the patients of the hospitals and the clinics. So you have this backfire. It's a backfiring on. That's what always happens with these utilitarian political philosophy implementations, that whereby you have the opposite effect of what you're trying to do, trying to achieve. And I think that's why the founders of this nation insisted on this Bill of Rights, and so I certainly hope that the courts rule correctly that this vaccine mandate is unconstitutional, but it should be not just for large employers, it should be across the board, all employers, all vaccine mandates and all mask mandates and requirements are unconstitutional. That they go completely against the whole foundational principles of a free society that we're supposed to be founded upon. And that's all. I guess that's my main point. I mean, these vaccine mandates are they go completely against the founding principles of this nation. We're not founded on. There always can be found some utilitarian excuse for tyranny. Some reason can always be brought up why some measure is going to be helpful overall to society, even though it's going to hurt the rights of the individual. Like in a previous video, I talked about how the mandates are coercive and are comparable to like a boss that is coercing his secretary to have sex with them. And I compare that to the vaccine mandate, because it's either way. It's both, in both cases it involves penetration, and that's simply that's a fact. And so that's the case here with the vaccine mandate. You could always come up with some utilitarian reason either way why, even in the case of the boss and the secretary, whereby you could say, well, this boss is really, he knows a lot about what he's doing. He's really good at what he's doing, and his job is important for the whole nation economically, or he has really important jobs, let's say, and that it's vital to the nation's infrastructure, for instance. And if he doesn't do a good job, if he can't concentrate on his work, the whole nation could be in jeopardy, because we're counting on him. But he finds his secretary so attractive that he needs to have sex with her in order to concentrate on his work. So then we're saying, but then again, if she wasn't there, then he'd still be able to concentrate on his work if his secretary wasn't around. So you could say, she should agree to have sex with him so that he can concentrate on his work, or she's of course free to leave her job. Then he'll be able to concentrate on his work still also. So either way, can you find some justification for any utilitarian dictate? There's always going to be something you can come up with, some reason why. Oh yeah, that's okay. In that case, then the utilitarian law is okay, because if it violates the rights of the individual, because it's so much more important that we take care of society as a whole. So I guess in that case, the secretary should either sleep with her boss, or just quit her job. So you see how you always can find some reason why, some utilitarian excuse for any dictate, no matter how extreme it may seem. At first, it's like megalomaniacs, they can always come up with something. You can be assured of that. So that's why the Bill of Rights exists, because the founders, they know megalomaniacs, they'll find some excuse always. So the founders decide, we need to make these rules clear, very, very clear, unequivocal, no asterisks, exception, except for that case. No, they're freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, no exceptions. So that's why it's so important that we abide by constitutional rules, the Bill of Rights, You need to abide by them, or you give the megalomaniacs an inch, they'll take a mile, they take 10 miles. And we've given, with the mandates, vaccine mandates, we're giving lots more than just 1 inch, I tell you. We're giving them miles to begin with, so they're going to we're going to have a global dictatorship if we allow this to keep going forward. So we need to draw the line here and say, no, we need to freedom, and individual rights is important. We're all valuable, we're all essential, we are all individual spirit beings, and the spirit of the individual is more important than the spirit of the society. So we need to treat the individual as a sacred, and the freedom of the individual as sacred. Yet, in order to have an ideal society. Otherwise, when you disregard the value of the individual, then you inevitably results in a dictatorship. You're a dystopian state, because the society is made up of individuals finding their way, not the government finding their way for them. That's not how society is. Not about the government. It's treating you as a mere pawn, a mere cog in a machine. Society is made up of all these people that are special as individuals, as special as spirit beings, and the only way for a society to thrive is to allow them to find their way as the individual sees fit. And I think it would be a real cynical view of thinking, oh, if then they're going to be selfish. No, if people are inherently social, they're inherently they want to care for others as part of them being an individual, they're caring for others, and so they're going to, unless they're a sociopath. But thank goodness, sociopaths that are extremely rare. So, as a rule, that people are going to take care of each other, even though they're treated as individuals with individual rights and freedoms that are guaranteed. And then once that's recognized, then we can have what's as close as we can get to an ideal utopian society. Well, if you're watching, well, thanks for watching. I guess that's all I would say for now. Yeah.